everybody. Welcome.
Hello.
And welcome back for some of you to the UUR, a Severance podcast, which is officially live now.
Woohoo!
Versus before. And we are your hosts, Rodnesha Green and Callie Thomas. Say what's up, Callie.
Hello.
We are so excited. You guys, we are back. And we say we're back because for us, it's actually been a while since we actually recorded the first season.
A very long time.
But for you guys, it's all running together because we don't know how to schedule things. And so we're putting it all out now. That's neither here nor there. You guys, we're so excited to be here. We're so excited for season 2. We have been yumming, eating it all up, all this content, all these previews, all these trailers, all the headlines, all the drama. You guys, it's weird, is it not? Because it's like we went from nothing, like desert dry, like season 1 happened. It was amazing. We all loved it. And then ghost. Nothing.
Oh my gosh. And it's so funny because as we have been, like Rodnesha said, we recorded season 1 so long ago and we've been putting those up now, getting closer to season 2. As we've been doing it, there's been drop after drop of stuff. And we're like, slow down.
This is like when Kendrick and Drake were beefing and literally was just like boom, 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 boom. And it's like, I can't keep up. I just heard the last thing. Wait. So that's exactly accurate. It's exactly how it's been.
Exactly.
And yet I love it. I think what I love the most, Callie, is that like, it's clear that in all that lag time, in all that downtime, it became very evident to Apple that they had a winner on their hands. And so it feels like they are just pouring money into the marketing right now.
Right. They are making up for lost time, wasted time with the promotion for season 2, because where was it for season 1? Where was it?
We just happened upon it. We're just lucky to have happened upon it. I feel like anyone who got into Severance during that time when it came out, it's literally like you just stumbled into it and was like, oh, this is amazing. No one was really talking about it. I mean, that's kind of the crux of how this whole podcast came about, is the two of us were watching it. No one else we knew were watching it. So we were like, well, I guess we'll just talk to each other about it.
Right.
And then it was like, maybe we should just record what we talk about. But now it seems like it's really getting out there and it's exciting.
It is.
Because it's becoming quite a little fandom, isn't it?
It is. The fandom is great. I love it. And we've gone from thinking it was just the two of us on the planet watching it to every single day I'm hearing someone or seeing someone online saying, just binge season 1. I don't know how you guys waited for 3 years. Because they're like, it comes out next week.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what's funny? I feel like I'm now a part of one of those fandoms from the ground up.
Yeah.
You know how you've got your Star Wars fans, your Marvel fans, your DC fans, or whatever, Lord of the Rings, whatever, Harry Potter. And I feel like with each of those fandoms, I kind of came to them later. Like I was never part of it from its inception.
Right.
And so it's still fun to be a fan in the community. But now I'm like, oh man, I've been watching it since it dropped. I've been watching it since episode 1, minute 1:00:01 second was in. And it's kind of fun to be, like the wise old sage in the fandom.
Yes. And it's funny to see people being like, I just found out that Severance 2 is going to be a weekly drop. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea. We not new to this. We true to this. Okay. We were watching season 1 week to week, waiting
with bated breath
for the next episode. Yes.
But worth the wait. Worth every bit of the wait.
So worth it.
And I feel like compared to season 1, we're going to have so much more to digest and chew on. And again, because now more people are getting into the fandom, there's going to be more conversation going. So that week is just going to fly by. It's just going to fly by. I'm litty as a titty. I'm excited. I'm ready. I am ready. So this is all to say, guys, if you haven't caught on already, this particular episode of the pod is going to be discussing the teaser and trailer drops that we received. That includes the first 2 teasers, Return to the Office and Welcome to Lumon? Welcome back. Right? And then they released an 8-minute preview of episode 1. And we're going to talk about our thoughts about that as well in preparation for the season 2 premiere on January 17th, which is next week, next Friday, less than a week away.
Right. As we record this now, it is less than a week away.
Thank you for specifying, because yeah, people, I don't know when you'll actually hear this, but yes, as of when we are recording, less than a week away, and I can't wait. So I guess let's get into it. I'm gonna take a sip of my water.
Yeah, and just to add really quick, before I get into this first brief summary, thank you so much for listening. Those of you that have listened to all of our season one, or you're working through it now, Rodnesha and I are just like so overwhelmed with the reception.
Yes.
Again, like I mentioned, there was a time in there where we weren't sure if it was gonna get finished and put up.
Life happened.
And now it's out there.
Life was lifing.
Yes.
Things were happening, strikes were happening, and we were just like, maybe this was just a fun little time we had,
Right.
and it's just never gonna see the light of day.
So yeah, anyway, all that to say is thank you. We're having so much fun interacting with you guys and seeing your reaction to the pod. And we're really excited for season 2. So with that, let's talk about this first teaser. So in October, they dropped the first like 90-second spot. And we hear voiceover of Helly R's dialogue that she was yelling to the audience at the Egan Gala. Severance is a lie. They torture us down there. And that is being intercut with Mark's dialogue from the video that the Audis make for their innies. We were introduced to this dialogue first from actually Helena when Helly R watched her any video from her orientation process in season 1. Right. But we know that it's the same video for everybody. It's that form script. So we're hearing video that Mark S is watching. I have elected to do this procedure of my own free will, blah, 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 blah. And as we're hearing those back and forth, we're seeing we're just getting bombarded with images. So Mark is running through the halls and we see another red ball icebreaker. Why is there another icebreaker happening? We see Miss Casey is missing posters. We see Audi Irving at a phone booth. We see Dylan in a dark, mysterious office with another person, which, by the way, at first I thought he was talking to himself, and I had to zoom in and see that it was another actor. I was like, what is going on? We see another melon party with the bust of Kier carved into the watermelon. And
you just clarified something for me. Okay, go on.
you were like, what is that? And then it just peaks and peaks and peaks, all to end on a shot of 3 new mystery people in MDR. We think it's MDR. We don't know for sure in this teaser. But so yeah, my initial reactions to this teaser, I just had 2, was just like, what did they do to everybody else? Because in this first teaser, we're really just getting mostly any Mark, and we're seeing mostly shots of Audis of the rest of MDR. We don't Dylan, I'm unsure. He looks like he's in an office, but it doesn't look like Lumon. So I'm unsure if that's his innie or his Audi in the teaser. And then my other reaction was, oh, is that Aaliyah Shawkat? I love her.
Okay, so your initial reactions were similar to mine. I wrote down my initials up top before going back and dissecting. Thought number 1, what the hell? Where's my MDR crew?
Right.
Like once I got to the total end, I was just like, where are my people? What's going on? Where did they replace everybody? That was the first thought I had. And then all the imagery was a lot to take in. So much. I just got to the end and was like, whoa, where is everybody? And then I guess everything else really is the dissection of the scenes.
Yeah.
But oh boy. Side note, people, I just watched all of these today. I didn't want to, they were dropping, and it's been so hard to not go and watch because there's been so much talk and chatter as things get released. And I wanted my thoughts to be fresh. But on the other hand, my reactions are also very fresh, and my brain is just like, whoa, that was a lot you just gave us.
Yeah.
So I literally just watched each of these 3 trailer releases at one time. So we're still processing. That's why I'm letting Callie be the de facto leader.
Right. I watched all 3. When they released the 8-minute preview, I still hadn't watched these. So I was like, wait, let me go back and watch these in order because I want my reactions to be authentic and not colored by them out of order. So yeah, I kind of did that same thing and then just now rewatched everything. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about the teaser. Do you?
Okay, I have a few things.
Okay.
As I said, you already clarified one thing for me. I thought that the Melon bust was Irving, not Kier.
Oh.
So my thought was, wait, is Irving leaving? Are they doing a Melon goodbye party for Irving like they did for Bert? That was my first thought. That's what I thought was happening. But now that you say Kier, I'm like, oh crap, is that Kier?
Now, wait, my assumption that was that it was Kier, but now if I'm thinking about the bust of Kier that is in his replica house,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't he have like a beard?
Yes.
So maybe it didn't occur to me that it was somebody else. I just assumed it was Kier, but now that you're putting it in my head that that might be Irving, is it? Is it a retirement party for Irving?
Well, because the last time we saw the Melon party was the retirement party for Bert. And he did, yeah, the bus didn't have a
Right.
beard and had curly-ish hair. So I thought Irving.
Yeah, I can see that being Irving and not Kier. Oh, oh no. Okay.
Okay, so there's that. Let's see. I did go and look at that Dylan side by side moment that he had in the trailer.
Mhm.
And it's weird. I was trying to figure out, is this something that really happened? Is it a dream? Because what was interesting between the two of them, the one on the right hand side of the screen looked like our Dylan, like our any Dylan. The hair is the
Mhm.
same, you know, persona, da da da. The left side, he looked, I want to say maybe looked a little older, but maybe not. But his hair was longer. The suit color was different. It
Yeah,
was like on the left side, he had more of a like gray suit, longer hair, and he looked a little more portly. And
right.
then the right side looks like the Dylan that we know in the blue suit. Da, da, da.
Yeah. So the left side looked like another actor, and I'm not gonna figure it out before we finish recording this because I was like, oh man, what have I seen him in? If I can place the face, then I can look up his name because I feel like I know who it is,
Okay, interesting.
but I couldn't think of
See,
it.
I
But
didn't
yeah.
think it was a different actor. It looked like another version of Dylan, but with longer hair. And that's why I was like, did they
Mhm.
do some kind of time jump? Or is this him like his future self or a past self? I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. And it could be another actor. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But I made note of that. So there's that. The rest of this is just, let's see, let me skip. Sorry, I'm doing all my notes out of a book because I'm an old lady who writes everything down.
Well, I have mine on a sheet of paper over here.
Okay, all right. I don't feel as bad. Let's see. Oh, they do a shot of the dark hallway. We're going to get a lot of that dark hallway this season, y'all. And I'm
Oh, yes, they
so ready
do.
for them to explain what the heck that is. But there was a shot of a man standing in front of the elevator at the end of that hall, but he does not look like anybody that we know. I stared at the back of that man's head for the longest time. I was like, his hair doesn't look like it
Yes.
doesn't even look like Mark's hair.
Yes.
Definitely doesn't look like Irving or anybody we know.
Right.
Doesn't look like anyone in management. I was like, who is this
Hmm.
standing at the end of this hallway?
Hmm.
So there's that.
Yes.
I got confused about who was riding on the motorcycle, and then that gets cleared up in a different trailer. So I won't even go there. Know who that is.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. We already talked about the bust thing. And then I saw Cobell at the long stretch of decks, but that also gets clarified in the next trailer. So don't have to explain that.
Yes. Yeah, there's just so many clips.
I also think this is going to get clarified too, where Mark and Helly pull back the vinyl curtain that's there, the like kind of black.
Oh, yes.
And you can see Hay in the background. Again, that becomes more clear in the next trailer. So I had marked that. I thought it was interesting
Okay.
when they show the missing posters of Miss Casey
Yeah.
and it's being photocopied. So that means these are inside of Lumen
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, and they're like
hand sketched, hand drawn. Who's just allowing who to put up missing posters all on the inside of the severed floor?
Uh-huh. Here we go. MDR just sneaky deaky,
Stirring up trouble.
roaming the halls instead of doing their work
Not doing
again.
these numbers are just being abandoned while they go like the Scooby-Doo gang off looking for ghosts and goblins. And anyway, so that I noted that. And then my final note was look at Milchick in his brand new suit. We doing navy now, navy with a royal blue turtleneck. And that was the last I wrote down.
And another turtleneck.
He loves him a turtleneck. And let me say, he pulls it off, pulls it off well. Not
Yes.
everybody can pull off a turtleneck. Somehow this man can.
This is true.
All right. That's it. That's I think in a nutshell. Nutshell? Wow. In a nutshell. That's all I have. I guess we can move on to the next one.
All right. So the longer trailer, this one was just under 3 minutes long. Welcome back. This was released in December. And now this one I specifically avoided when it was released because I was like, I don't want to know. I know I have to watch it because we have to talk about it, but I don't want to right now. So I didn't just then. So, it's a trailer. So obviously these things aren't happening in any type of order that is meaningful to us. But here's just some of what we see. Again, it's so quick. I don't know that I got everything, but here we go. So Milchick is at Mark S's house. What?
And I'm glad you realized that because at first when I saw it, I was like, whose house is this with a motorcycle? because we don't know about anybody who has a
Right.
motorcycle. But yeah, then I
Right.
realized it was just somebody who has a motorcycle
At
at Mark's house.
Yeah. So Milchek is trying to convince Mark to come back to work. And then we see Any Mark racing to that speaker box that is in Miss Cobell's office. He's racing to that speaker box, that like Charlie's Angels box to talk to the board and is like, is the board on? Is the board on? And then Milchek comes running after him and unplugs the phone before he has a chance to say anything. And then we see that all of our MDR team returns confused. We get their elevator shots one after another, and they're bracing for their punishment because, of course, it's got to be
Mm-hmm.
terrible after what they pulled, right? Um, but Mark informs the team that Milchek has told him that the four of them apparently are famous and they have become the face of the severance reform. And we get a flash of a newspaper that is celebrating the four of them that is heavily, heavily redacted. And of
We are
course,
going to deep dive
exactly. Of
that.
course, we screenshot that. So we will go into that because it comes back up in the 8-minute preview. So we'll hold that.
Yeah.
And they start debriefing each other on what has happened outside. And Mark drops that bombshell about Miss Casey and Gemma. And then we cut to Outie Mark and Devin at a diner. And Outie Mark is definitely in denial about the possibility that Gemma is alive. And Devin seems to be really pushing him to, at the very least, entertain the idea. Like, we have to, if there's even a shred of that truth to this statement, like, we owe it to Gemma to figure this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we see that Outie Mark confronts Mrs. Selvig, Miss Cobell, and she informs him that he is not going to get that fairy tale happy ending that he is hoping for when it comes to Gemma. So then we see a new face in the office back at Lumon. We don't know who this is that is telling us that the work being done here is going to be one of
Oh
the
yeah,
greatest
Beardy.
things. Yeah, Beardy,
I'm calling him Beardy for now.
Mystery Beard Man. And it's going to be one of the greatest things that has taken place on this planet. What does that mean? Then Helly and Mark revisit the baby goats while possibly
Oh,
Audi, Bert, and
Birdie.
Irving meet. There seems to be some of that going on. Then we see that Helena and Miss Cobell have an interaction in which
Yes.
there's some probably heated words going on there. And we cut to Helena watching footage of Helly and Mark as this kiss. Bum, bum, bum. And then Mark seems to be leading a revolution to save slash avenge Miss Casey. And we see some different severed faces in that crowd that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Okay, the last bit of this is flashes to very staccato music. It's dun, 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 it's cutting in and out, and it's very intense and made my heart rate go up.
Yes.
And we see that Ragabi is back in some
Capacity.
way.
Mm-hmm.
We see something that looks like some sort of ritual with the animals in the goat room.
We're going to talk
We
about that.
see Rickens looking worried. We see Irving's looking worried. We see Miss Casey in a hallway. We see Miss Casey and Mark also in what looks like MDR. We see a radar and more of Mark running. There's just so much running. Poor Mark, he is running so much. And then we end with another red ball icebreaker for the new MDR team and Miss Wong. We don't know Miss Wong's name yet, but yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I have so much to say. Oh,
So much.
boy.
Yeah. You want to just take it back to the top and do our
Yes.
reactions?
Yes. 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 You go first.
Okay. Milchek and Mark's house. What? Why are you there? That's like literally what I was like. What?
Mm-hmm.
What do we? This is. Oh, I didn't even cue into the motorcycle, so he had a leather jacket on, right? So must be Milchek's motorcycle. You think?
Well, so yeah, exactly. So they show the opening, the front of the house. I immediately see the motorcycle there and was like, whose house is this? And then once they cut to the inside and you see that he has a the leather jacket on, I'm like, oh, Milchek drives a motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then I'm like, well, now I got a lot more questions. But yeah, What more of your initials? More of your initials.
Yeah, another like an overall initial reaction was like, cool. The mission is to save Miss Casey. Glad there's a focus on what the mystery of Gemma is. Glad we're gonna get, I hope, a lot more of Deech and Lockman in that character. Yeah, and then animals, so many animals,
So many
not
goats.
just the goats in there. Yeah,
Oh,
that a lot
was
more
there other
goats,
stuff? Was there other stuff in
a
there?
lot more goats, but I feel like there were sheep and other things like roaming around in that room. Maybe I'm wrong. It was fast. It's funny to me also that it's like hilly green pastures for them in that room.
What is this room? Anyway, go on. Initial thoughts.
um, then the last part is during the red ball part, we get question of why are you a child? And she's like, well, because of when I was born. And I was like, but why are you a child? And that's what I wrote on my paper for the reaction.
Let me just say that was the funniest way they could have ended that whole sequence. It's like, why are you a child? Because of when I was born. I died. I was like, okay, that's fine. All right. My initial thoughts. For the record, all my initial thoughts are going to be completely just random declarative statements. Okay. Holy crap. I think that was once Mark and Milchick talk about him coming back.
Yeah.
And then I think about after you saw the hilly inside with the goats, I was like, what's going on? And the next thought was, who is this child? And then by the end, I was like, what in the world? Literally, these are all things I said out loud. My roommate was over there like thinking I'm talking to her, and I'm not. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm watching this trailer. Sorry. So those were just the initial true reactive thoughts. Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
Okay, more specifically,
right?
Where do we even begin with this trailer? This trailer,
yeah.
All right, pause. Not a true pause, but like a me pause. This trailer gave us a lot in a short amount of time. Like, honestly, more than I expected to get.
Oh, so much.
And my brain was going like a million miles a minute.
So much.
Okay, so we've got Milchick and Mark talking.
Mm-hmm.
I note that in there, they mentioned that it's been 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 months have passed. I'm very curious as to what has happened in that time. I don't know if they're going to show it or if they're just going to jump ahead and we just know it's been 5 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mark comes back. Obviously, all of them come back. Like in the first trailer, or nope, I'm getting confused again.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm just going to jump ahead. In the 8-minute, right, I think Milchick essentially alludes to the fact that nobody else is coming back. It's just Mark, right?
Right.
But obviously we see in the trailers that they all do come back.
Yeah, eventually they do.
I'm very curious as to what brings them back.
Right.
And I'm also curious as to what ultimately drives Mark back, especially when it's been a 5-month window of time, right?
Right. And he is looking no better than he has ever looked to us in this clip, right? Which tells me that he is still battling some demons.
Good point. Very good point. Okay. I think the next thoughts I have are for what comes after that.
Okay.
The portrait that's there when the elevator doors open for Helly.
Yes.
Has that portrait always existed? Because did you look at it?
Oh,
I got a good look at it. Okay, so I'm going to describe it for you guys. This portrait that's on the wall, it definitely looks very industrial-esque, as most Kier portraits do, right? And then off on the left, you see 4 figures. And from what I could tell, it looks like 3 men and 1 woman. Mm-hmm. The woman does have short hair, and it doesn't look like Helly. None of them quite look like the MDR team that we know, but they also don't not look like the MDR team that we know.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of them kind of looks like Dylan, but not quite, like not the same size, but like has a beard, short hair. One of them is an older man, like Irving, but doesn't quite look like Irving. One of them has short brown hair like Mark, and then the other one's a woman, but has black hair and it's short. So I found that very interesting. They're all buried up to their shoulders in the ground. Just their shoulders up are exposed. You pan over to the right, you see Kier. Kier is approaching them with a sword and looks like he's in more of a militaristic soldier type of uniform, not his usual, suit thing that I think most of the Kier portraits you see he's in, like an old-timey suit. This one, he's definitely wearing something that looks akin to a soldier's uniform.
Oh, no.
And then you see standing behind him some other figures that either look like workers or soldiers, and they're holding some type of thing. It looked kind of like a pitchfork, but not quite. And then it also kind of looked like a weapon. Like it looked almost like tridents, I think, like King Triton tridents, right?
Okay.
So I'm looking at this photo and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because I don't know if this is another thing similar to Grim Barbarity, right? Where maybe this is one of those propaganda type of portraits that didn't always exist, but exists now as a way to kind of keep these returning innies in check. I don't know.
Right.
That's my thoughts. Those were my thoughts, but that's that portrait. And I could see why when Helly saw it was like, what the hell? Like, what is this?
That's insane.
So
Oh my
you guys
gosh.
get a chance, do yourselves a favor, go back to that trailer, look at that portrait. I took a good, long, hard look at it because I was like fascinated. And I'm definitely hoping they talk about that.
Yeah, I was like scanning. Oh yeah. So I just have the YouTube
Mm-hmm.
pause and I like hovered over, you get the precise seeking
Yeah.
in what the heck?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What? Okay.
So there's that. Don't know what it is, don't know what it means. Found it very interesting. All these little breadcrumbs.
Yes.
So let's see, what else did we get to? Oh, so Milchick talks to Mark about how the four of them have become famous. They've become the face
Hmm.
of severance reform.
Hmm.
And I want to know what in the world happened between that any day out and the 5 months later. Severance reform,
Yeah.
and they're famous,
Hmm.
but yet they're still working for Lumen.
Hmm.
Wow, do I have questions about what
Hmm.
is this a cover up thing? Did they legitimately?
Hmm.
Did they legitimately? Sorry, my brain.
Yes. Yeah. And when we talk about the newspaper, I have theory.
And
Okay.
I think that's why, because some of it is in that. But yeah, we'll talk about that more on the next block. Okay, so the meeting and them talking and the discussing. I noticed the very first scene is just the three of them. It's
Yeah.
just Dylan, Helly, and Mark talking in the round.
Right.
Like, what happened? What did you guys see? And then there's another scene of all four of them, but they're in a different room that I've never seen.
Yeah.
It
And it's like
it's
dark
darker.
and
Mm-hmm.
hidden.
And I was like, are they inside the break room? It kind of looked like the room in the break room, but also not.
Oh,
So I wasn't sure where they could be. And you know them, they be scattering and skittering and roaming the halls. But I'm just trying to figure out how
hmm
they all four got away and found this secret room and have this discussion
again.
again. So I don't know where they are.
Yeah.
But that was my thought, was this looks kind of
And
like the
and
inside of the break room, but not quite the break room as we know. And
yeah.
now, now that oh shoot, I don't know how to bring it up now because I feel like part of it gets answered in the next part. Okay. Oh, okay.
Save it.
I'll come back to it. But there's something they say in the next 8-minute preview that makes me think that maybe it is the break room, but no longer the break room, right? Like,
No longer.
exactly. We'll come back to it. All right. All right.
Okay, got it.
Let's see. Oh, the dark hall, you see the hand touching, and then you realize that it's Irv touching his bazillion paintings, but now
Paintings.
they're all mounted.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a showing of the art, or is this just the inside of
Oh,
Irving's?
see, I didn't think they were mounted because it almost went all the way down. Like I thought that was how he was storing them. Like they're super stacked.
But they looked more organized.
Oh, see, I thought there was some overlaps with some too.
They looked placed.
Oh, it was so fast.
This is why. See, this is why I'm
Okay.
like,
I don't
they
know.
they were placed. So I was trying to figure out, is this some type of showing of them? And again, with this 5-month window, I'm like, did he finally just take all these and put it out there to be like, this is my experience in portraiture, or is it something else? I don't know.
Sheesh.
These are just thoughts. I
I don't
don't
know.
know. Okay. And then let's see. I don't know if we really need to discuss him walking out of the Asian restaurant. I made a note of it. I think I was just like, where is he?
Right. And like, what Egan is that one named after if it's Asian food?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being on my level, because I truly was like, now wait a minute. The Egan's got an Asian restaurant.
Wait a minute. Appropriation.
Now
Okay.
wait a minute. Right. A diner, I get. Okay. A little steakhouse, sure. But an Asian kitchen, all right, we'll let that be. I'm glad you're thinking how I'm thinking. Okay. So Mark and Helly are talking. Mark basically says that he's essentially here to get Miss Casey out, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I might be with Cobell. Like, is this going to be possible? I'm so ready for them to get into what is happening there and whether or not Mark will get that happy ending and why or why not.
Right.
Mark
Well,
and his
and
sister talking. Oh,
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, okay, yeah. So I was gonna say, and the motivations for Audi versus Any Mark are so wildly different, right? And I almost feel like Any Mark is more motivated because like his whole life is at stake, right?
Right.
Because he's coming from a place of if they can kill off our Audi anchor and just do whatever the hell they want to us,
Mm-hmm.
we've got to stop that, right? And he says, as he's trying to
Mm-hmm.
lead the revolution, if we don't do this for Miss Casey, who's going to do it when it's one of us?
Yeah.
Versus from what we get, I don't even know that Mark even believes it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I honestly, as I went through the trailers, I wondered if their causes come together in a way. Like, is there
Hmm.
going to be a little bit of bleed over? Is there some way that any Mark has maybe infiltrated Audi Mark's world and kind of fed into the desires of it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or if Art, come on, brain. If Audi Mark has a totally separate motivation and want for getting back in, and it just happens to benefit any Mark that he does.
Right. I mean, I hope it's the former for Gemma's case. I
Right.
hope they can bleed together and work together
Right. I agree.
to save her.
Save Gemma. We need t-shirts. Save Gemma.
Save Gemma. Free Miss Casey.
Free Miss Casey. Okay, but go. So the next thing we get is Mark and his sister talking, right? And that conversation that they have at the diner where they're sitting and talking, when she was like, I feel like we need to, what did she say? Like, I feel like we need to be sure or be clear or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering if those conversations are the same conversation concerning Gemma or if it's something else they're discussing.
Hmm.
One, because they take place in two different locations. You know how editing tricks be.
Yeah.
So they might be trying to make one conversation seem like it is, but they could be talking about two different things. Because I guess what I'm trying to figure out is she seems to have a little bit of disbelief in that second half of the conversation. And I'm trying to figure out if that is disbelief about Gemma or something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I would think that she would be pretty on board to help Mark, especially after she had the conversation with any Mark, right?
Right.
So it's like she's gotten to talk to the any side, so there shouldn't be any disillusion about what they could or could not know. So it makes me wonder, is there something else that she's beginning to be uncertain about that they discuss?
Right. And remember, in the finale, they don't show us the conversation where any Mark brings Devin up to speed.
Right.
So there's no telling how many things he
He
has
has
told
told her,
her.
that's true.
Right. This could be, like you said, editing tricks. She could be talking about something else
Mm-hmm.
that happened in that conversation, not about Gemma.
Right. Okay. So now we get to where Mark sees Cobell
Hmm.
and intervenes.
Hmm.
Homeboy threw himself in front of a car and said, "Stop. We are talking right now."
Yeah.
I found it interesting that she has luggage. So obviously she ain't going to be living next door, which makes sense if she did get fired,
Right.
supposedly. I have questions about that.
Yeah. I was like, why is she still there? And then I realized, like, oh, it looks like she's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Mm-hmm. And of course, he is like, "What's going on? What do you know about Gemma?" And I think what's interesting to me with that part is I feel like Cobell was privy to a lot of information and things regarding the severed floor, which makes sense if she was managing the whole severed floor, she would have to know these things.
Hmm.
But someone like that, you don't just say, okay, well, you're fired, goodbye, have a nice life, right?
Hmm.
So where is she going, really?
Hmm.
And again, I have my thoughts.
And you know what? This is fresh in my mind because we just released this, but you made a joke about them firing Cobell without severance, right? In season one.
Yes.
And I thought about it and I was like, real talk, they would have to give her a hefty severance because she's not severed and they need her to have an ironclad NDA. You know what I mean?
Yep.
In actuality, she needs all the money, all of it, because she could blow their whole shit up.
Blow that whole thing up. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why I was like, okay, I want to know where is she really going? Because
Right.
obviously, well, number one, this is Patricia Arquette. This is not the last we're going to see of her. She's not just going to disappear, right?
Right.
Two, as her character, Harmony Cobell, again, she knows a lot.
Hmm.
She, as far as we know, is not severed. Although I think we did discuss the episode will have released by the time you hear this. In 9, there is some question about if she is or not.
Hmm.
And we discussed that. So as far as what is clarified, she is not.
Hmm.
So then how do you control someone who isn't severed, but has all this information
Hmm.
about your severance situation,
Hmm.
your severance
Hmm.
setup?
Hmm.
So I guess we'll find out. So they are the snowy mountain imagery that has from jump all those photos that have
Yes.
released from that variety interview, I think was the first one, right?
Yeah.
And that was like the first image they put up on that variety interview. And I was just like,
Like,
wait, what?
what?
How are we on a mountain in the snow.
Yep.
This does get answered for me a little bit later in the trailer, and I'll get to it when we go through those little scene by scenes because I did write them all out.
Okay, of course you did good because I know I didn't get all
Of
of them.
course I did. Of course I did. Now, what I found interesting about that scene was okay, yes, we all know they're in the mountains, snow-capped mountains. They're all walking up this mountain trail. How the heck did they get there? What are they doing? My initial thought was, why are they all wearing the same thing?
Yeah, they're all in the same in the same winter clothing.
Why are they all wearing the exact same black winter coat, that weird kind of Russian-y muff type of hat? They're all wearing it. I find that weird for just a day
Yep.
trip to the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
is this what we think it is? I don't know. Just saying. Okay, let's talk about Beardy.
Beardy.
Who is this guy? Beardy.
Beardy McBeardyson. I don't know. And I'm not sure if he is talking to just Mark or a group of people because it's a tight shot on him.
It's Milchick. I freeze framed that shot.
Oh,
That was a
Milchick.
dark body he was talking to.
Okay. Yeah. So
So
very important. I was like, wait, is this goat guy? No, it's not the same goat guy. It's
not
not the
goat
man who
guy.
is feeding the baby
They're not
goats.
ready.
Um,
You can't have them.
right. And then I wondered if he is the one who is in the mask and the like with the antlers in the later scene in the trailer with all of the animals that looks like some kind of animal ritual. I don't know.
I didn't look hard enough
Like, is this the
to
same
see,
guy?
so I can't tell.
Well, you can't
But
see his face. That person is covered up.
okay. Okay.
That person has a mask on. That seemed like a guy with a big build.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't know, maybe
Okay.
same
Okay.
person. I don't know.
So that statement, their work will be remembered as one of the greatest moments of the planet. And this goes back to all the conversations we have had trying to guess and ruminate and theorize about what the culling of the numbers is all about. Really, what is it really?
What the heck?
And I hope they get more clear, if not real clear about that this season. And I hope that this is part, because I mean, what was interesting about that scene is that they start on the line with him talking to the figure who I'm pretty sure is Milchick, and then it cuts to them at their desks as they're about to sit down and do their job. So that makes me think they are specifically speaking about not just what they did to blow up the whole Severance spot, but the work that they are doing as macro data refinement is specifically something momentous that's going to have a big effect on the world. And I want to know what the heck it is. What is it?
Right.
What are they doing? Whew. All right. Just had to address that. What do we think is happening with the Bert Irving scene? Do you think that they meet up again, or do you think that they actually got a chance to meet before the Severance switch got pulled and we just never saw it?
Well, that was my question. I was like, is this something that we did not see because we only see him yelling for his name at the door? And I'm a little bit inclined to think that maybe it's that because of something that gets said in the 8-minute preview.
Okay.
But it also could be both of the outies later on. So I'm like, is this present day or is this a flashback to the finale? I don't know.
Okay. The illusion is that we only got like Irving. Oh, here we go again. The illusion is that Irving only got to Bert's door just as the switch got pulled.
Right.
But we don't know that for sure.
We don't know
so
that.
There could have actually been a conversation that happened between the two of them that they saved for this season.
Yes.
Or they could meet at a later point. And I'm just wondering if that is the case, what would prompt them to meet down the road later? Like, how would they know of each other to meet? Right.
Well, if we know that there was big fanfare from the flash of the newspaper that we got all about the outies and the innies and the whatevers, Bert will be aware of Irving, right? Like, he's gonna know it. At the very least, he got to his door and he was yelling his name. So it's possible he seeks out. They seek out each other. The outies seek out each other. I don't know, but I was going to say that Christopher Walken's face in the little flash that we get is very confused, which doesn't answer any question, right? He could be confused in either situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
All right.
I'm leaning more towards a flashback, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's my leaning as well, but we'll see, I guess. As we already discussed, we see the goat room, or we see a more expanded version of a room with goats, herding animals, whatever might be in there.
With rolling pastures.
rolling hills, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was so wild to see the guy in the middle who literally was wearing a goat skin. I got a good look. It's like it wasn't just antlers or whatever. Literally, he's wearing a
Mm-hmm.
goat skin head on top of his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, kind of like you were saying, is this a ritual? Is this a way of him trying to herd the animals and look recognizable by being a goat-like figure,
Mm-mm.
but like a bigger goat that I don't know. I'm trying to understand what it I'm
Mm-mm.
trying to understand what it is. Why would somebody do that?
What in
I
the
don't know.
world?
The funny thing is I actually didn't even think that it was some type of ceremonial thing.
Oh, the head thing immediately made me think of the Four Tempers masks in the Waffle Party. So I was like, this is some kind of
Oh,
crazy ritual.
duh, Rodnesha, you're absolutely right. I didn't think about that.
It's not the same type of mask by any means, but it connected me to that. And I was like, oh, what crazy thing are they doing now?
You're right. Okay. Huh. Okay. Oh, well, that's got my brain going. What are they doing to these goats? Are these sacrificial goats?
Poor goats.
Okay. All right.
Well, I can tell you the cast has debunked the idea that they're cloning.
Okay.
So
That's
there's
true.
that.
Okay. Oh, I noticed that Helly is also talking to Beardy. So in the next scene where she is still
Oh,
dressed as Helena post gala, she's still wearing the dress, right? She
yes.
comes into the room and sits down. She's talking to Beard Guy. When they have the scene and she's going back and forth with Cobell, and Cobell says something about being afraid, and Helly says, "We fear no one." And at first,
Hmm.
I'm thinking, is this still her innie talking? Like, is this a conversation that Cobell has with Helly before the switch happened and she's
Mm.
pulled her away from the gala, is trying to reprimand her? Or is this Helena and Cobell's giving her here's what we're gonna do type of game plan?
I assumed it was Helena.
And Helena's like, oh, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not worried about these
Okay.
innies. We don't fear nobody. We're Egans. We fear no one. So I wasn't sure which way it could go. I wasn't sure which
Yeah.
side of the fence it might be,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I found it interesting. I'm definitely
Hmm.
ready to see what happened in those post moments of the switch and how they wrangle all these innies who done got out the pin.
Yeah.
Okay, is this where we get to the jump cuts?
Well, after that
Oh
is
no, we're not there yet. It's Helly watching, or Helena
Helena
watching
watching
Helly
Helly
and
and
Mark's
Mark's kiss.
kiss.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Is she thinking I can use this as some type of fuel against Helly?
Oh, her face definitely says that.
Right. That's what I thought. So I was like, oh no, you're
She's
going
like,
to be
oh,
at
ha,
war
ha,
with
ha,
yourself. This whole
ha.
season's about being at war with yourself,
Terrible.
metaphorically and
Ooh,
actually.
I love Helly so much. I hate
I
Helena.
hate Helena, but I'm ready to see a little more of Helena. If I'm being honest,
Right.
I'm ready to see um, Britt Lauer play the Helena side because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
real nice. That's going to be real interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whoo, and we're going to hate her. Anyway, okay, I think this is no, not yet. Milchick mentions tightening the leash,
Yeah.
and that line happens over the scene of someone riding the motorcycle through the tunnel. So that again confirmed to me that this is Milchick
Yes.
chasing these folks down, wrangling.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk more when we get to the 8-minute trailer. It seems like it's going to be a very Milchick heavy season since he now runs the MDR floor. And
Yes. More Tremel
more
Tillman
Tremel
is
Tillman, give it
yes.
to me.
Yes.
But also, again, on the note of hating Helena, I'm like, Milchick's not going to be my friend this season. He is not going to be my friend. I mean, he never was,
Mm-mm.
but
Mm-mm.
again, the more dastardly thing about him is he smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers.
Yes. Backstabbers. Okay.
Backstabbers. Okay. But yeah, sorry. So that's going to be the thing, is like this man is just going to be playing in these innie spaces the whole time. He's over here undercutting
Mm-hmm.
everything they're going to try to do, and I just don't know what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I think we get to the jump cuts.
Yes. Now we get to the
Okay,
jump cuts.
so here's what I wrote down. So we've got Mark dunking under a crocheted blanket,
Yes.
and then he sees that thing that says "Who is alive?" The light thing. So that's that one.
Yeah.
We see Helly kissing someone. The assumption is that it's Mark under a red light,
Mm-hmm.
but is it? Is it? Are we going to maybe get a little preview of Helena's outie life?
Ooh.
Okay. The Melon party we see, and that rolling bust again, which might be Irving.
Mm-hmm.
Mark talking to ... other innies, question mark, union, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
What is this gathering? Where is it happening? When is
Mm-hmm.
it happening? Is this during this supposed parade that happened or whatever? Is this on the outside? I mean, definitely looks on the inside. Everybody looks like they're in any colors and the blue and that whole
Right.
thing. I just don't know when or how that happens or why. We see a claymation Irv, and then Irving's laughing at it. Is
Right.
this some video that they, like a welcome back video that they do and it's in claymation, stop motion, whatever? We'll see. Then we cut to Gwendolyn Christie, new character alert,
Woohoo! With a
and with a
cowbell.
cowbell. Do you think she's part of this goat wrangling squad? Because that's my thought. When I first saw her pop up,
She looks like a milkmaid the way she's dressed.
right, because we got the bandana, we've
Mm-hmm.
got the cowbell. Is
Mm-hmm.
she part of this weird goat room?
And I immediately thought it's way too on the nose to get a more cowbell line from Christopher Walken, but can we slip it in there with Gwendolyn
I
Christie?
would love it. I would love it. And I think the writers are clever enough to do it. And I wouldn't hate them for doing it
Me neither.
because we do need more cowbell. I also made note that her key card looked yellow.
Oh,
Thought
new
maybe green,
color.
but I think it was yellow because it had like it would look white when it reflected the light. So I was like, I think it's actually a yellow card.
Okay.
We'll see. Then the next scene we see is Helly being waterboarded, question mark,
Yeah.
because her head is looking like it's getting shoved underwater. We see the back and forth again with Miss Casey and Mark. Don't know if that's a like a imagination thing, a dream thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. We see, and so this is where I was like, what's going on? There's going to be another scene, but we see Milchek in the snow gear, but it's white, not black.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said something. I didn't write it down. I think he said, I don't know what he said. Anyway, he said something. We see a dark hand turning dials. So again, I just assume that's Milchek. He's the only black one on the floor. I just assume anytime I see a black body part, it's going to be him. I could be wrong. We'll find out. We see a shot of Ragabi's face. So we know she's coming back into play at some point,
Yes.
somehow. We see the goat wranglers with the goat skin head, and they've got the green jumpsuit uniforms on going onto the hill. What's happening? We don't know. And then we see Rickon at a typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to come back to that when we discuss the 8-minute trailer, because there is something that ties back to this that I have questions about. Okay, we see Helly walking down what looks like a dark hallway, but it gets lighter as she walks further down it.
Yeah.
And is walking to a door
Mm-hmm.
that leads outside
Mm-hmm.
to a snowy
Mm-hmm.
landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We see Irving in some room that's like blue backlit. Looks like there's like branches or twigs or something coming up from underneath. Don't know what that is. We see Mark running. Mark's doing a lot of running this season, a lot of running.
Yes.
And then we see some electromagnetic wavy lines over a grid. Don't know if this is something measuring from the break room, something else, could be from another severance procedure. Who knows? And goodbye, Mark S. Oh, that's what Milchek says. And then the last thing we see is Mark screaming from the elevator, wait, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got.
Well, we see there's also some circular radar looking thing at some point in there. I don't know which order.
I don't either. Okay.
It looks like old school, like sonar or like
tech.
submarine
Okay.
sonar or something.
Okay.
Something. Yeah. And I immediately thought, loves the sound of radar. And we know radar is the dog, but I was just like, radar again. That's coming back up again.
He's coming back. Oh, and then the final thing is the whole scene in the kitchenette, as we now know.
In the kitchenette.
With Miss Huang, who is a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad we're addressing it. And yeah, I want to know how the heck we're getting teen internship program in here with youths. How are the youths getting severed?
With the youths. Yeah. Like I said, my first reaction was, why are you a child? Why are you severed? That comes up again in the 8-minute thing, which makes me feel a little, we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Also, do you find it just the slightest bit condescending that Milchek has put a child in charge of the kids, so to speak?
Well, we learned that in the 8-minute preview too, as well, right?
Because I'm like, so now this is interesting.
That's what, well, then I'll just get there because we're talking about it.
Okay, let's just jump into it. All right, now we're going to cover it.
She takes his spot, right? And we know Milchek is not severed. So I'm like, well, at least
I didn't
maybe
even think
she's
about
not severed
that.
since she has the same position. She has the same position as Milchek. So she's probably not severed.
I didn't even think about that. You don't think she's severed? So she's just a normal child up in here dealing with this severed nonsense, unsevered?
Either way, it's crazy.
I mean, yes.
Why do you have that position in the first place? But from just the trailer, I was like, why is she severed? And then when she said, this is,
Her first
when
day
Mr.
and
Milchek said, this is my
oh
replacement,
right, right.
Miss Wong, I was like, oh, if it's his replacement, then presumably she's not severed because Milchek isn't severed in that position either.
I don't know which one's worse, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly, yeah, I don't. And whose child are you? Because nepotism is the only answer, right?
And then this has me asking a lot of, I mean, granted, and we'll get into it because now we're here. This has me asking a lot of questions of what her role is now,
Mm-hmm.
since supposedly they have been under these quote reforms.
Right,
But we know what Milchick's role used to be.
right.
So the fact that you've now given it to a child,
Uh-huh.
I've got a lot of questions.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay. So you want me to just do
Yeah.
this summary?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
just do this
Yeah. Yeah.
summary of
Yeah.
this 8 minutes. But let me tell you, earlier Rodnesha asked if we could push back our meeting to record by 30 minutes, and I was cool. I can watch this 3 more times. It feels like it's 4 minutes. I'll say that.
Mm.
You get to the end and you're like, no, it was not 8 minutes. Give
That
me more.
that was yep. Yep. Yep.
um, but okay, we open with this scene that we have now seen already with Mark S running through the hallways, and he's running to some 60s style peppy chase music.
Gotta love
I'll just go
that
ahead and say my reaction to
jazz.
this right away. It was great. It made me think of The Sandlot immediately. It made me think of the
Oh.
movie Catch Me If You Can immediately. And it's like,
Mm.
thing, movies set in that time with a running scene always have music like this. And I was like, yes, because it falls right in with the like that we're used to hearing some like bossa nova e 60s e whenever they're in Lumen space. So this was like appropriate, still that time frame of music,
Yeah.
but then him, he's running. So it's the feeling behind it is different. But I thought it was great. I was like, I love this music. Um
Good catches, by the way.
and
Good film references. I didn't even think about that, but now that you say that, I'm like, those two. Yes, very accurate. Very
yeah.
accurate.
um, so Mark ends up at the empty wellness center. All that's left there are the two like green waiting room couches, and he's kind of looking around. And we see a man in the hallway behind him out of focus, and he disappears just as Mark turns around, with
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of I'm being watched.
Mm-hmm.
So then next, he arrives at MDR, only to find that his MDR team is gone and has been replaced with Mark W., who is played by Bob Balaban, Gwendolyn Y., played by Alia Shawkat, Dario R., played by Stefano Carinate, I think,
Okay.
Carinante.
Okay.
And I was like, ooh, new face. Dario is only speaking Spanish. Oh, I meant to go back and listen again just to know what he said in the beginning because he seems to be asking a question I can't remember. Anyway, and so as Mark is kind of getting his bearings and trying to talk to them, he's like, where did everybody go? Who are you guys? And Mark W is just concerned with like, hey, are you willing to go by a different name to avoid confusion? Because there's two Marks. um, Mr. Milchek walks in with a bundle of blue balloons. They all have Mark S's face on them, and he welcomes him back to Lumen and with that scary smile, and hands him the balloons. And Mark immediately starts asking a question, and he was like,
Take a walk.
let's go talk
Yeah.
about it and let's take a walk. Yeah. So he gets to the office, and on the way to the office, he finds out it's been 5 months since the team enacted their OTC plan. And he's like, 5 months. And then we get to the lobby area before what's formerly Miss Cobell's office. And he introduces Mark to Miss Wong, which is the child played by Sarah Bach. And they enter the office, and that's where Mr. Milchek confirms that he is now the head of the severed floor. And that is terrifying. I thought Miss
You
Cobell was
thought Miss
scary, but
Cobell was
my
the devil, but little did
goodness.
you know the devil was on her shoulder,
Ooh,
literally waiting.
Mr. Mr. Milchek at the head of it all is so scary. So Mark is asking again, where is everybody? And Mr. Milchek explains that no one was fired, but he was the only member of the team to choose to return to work. And he says, Miss Cobell was to blame. We understand you had contact with Miss Cobell. And he's like, yeah, what was that about? And he says, we think we think Miss Cobell developed what, not a sexual. What did he say? He said,
I wrote it down. He said developed erotic feelings for you, and had plans to pursue them with both you to
and your
engage
outie in
in a
what
throuple.
could be called a throuple. And I said, what? And Mark said, what? And I laughed so hard at that, throuple. And I was just like, oh my gosh, here he is putting all the blame on Cobell. But he goes on to say that like they don't know how they allowed to get somebody so sadistic to become the head. And he's like, on your last, like, I trapped you like animals, referencing the doors that were put up, which by the way, they're not there anymore, right? They took them down.
Mm-hmm.
And he lets him know that he and the rest of his MDR team are the face of severance reform. And he shows him a newspaper from the celebration that is, again, heavily, heavily redacted. We first see this in the trailer. And then Mark is like, okay, I want to hear it from them, And Milchick is like, no,
Not possible.
sorry, can't do that. And that's where the 8-minute preview ends.
So my initial thoughts were the same as yours.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the end of the 8 minutes and literally was like, that's it.
I was so mad.
I was so mad. And yet for an 8-minute preview, you got a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so much that you're mad, that's all you got.
Right.
Okay. So initial thoughts. My initial thoughts, I mean, again, I kind of was just immersed in the scenes and just kind of what's going on. I don't know. I think the overall thought really was just, that's it. I think I literally said, that's it. That was.
Well, one thing I noticed immediately, and it's definitely a result of the recency with which we have edited our season 1 of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
One thing Milchick says to Mark as they're walking down the hall to the office is, this was a painful stain on Lumon history, but you must be cut to heal. Where have we seen this before? Right? The cross stitch in Miss Cobell's house, Mrs. Selvig's house. Oh, I was like, there that phrase.
But we're so
again.
Reformed.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so reformed.
Right. We're still
get out.
We're still quoting Kier. Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Okay.
We're gonna go through it as we go scene by scene or moment by moment. But I just wanted to say, while you were doing the summary, the amount of eye rolling I did when we got to the office discussion between Milchick and Mark. I literally was just like, you a doggone liar. Liar.
Yes.
Like, I just was so angry and fuming. And I'm like, this is the first 8 minutes of the first episode of this season. And I'm already so mad at you. Like, oh, because you just know he's a lie. You know he's a lie. Let's back it up. So we get the beginning running through the halls, like you were saying. The only thing I put at that moment was, this camera work is exceptional.
Oh,
that was
wonderful.
The prominent thought I had. I was like, this is next level stuff for a series, for an episodic. This camera work is exceptional. I just needed that to be noted. Exceptional.
This is why they're spending so much money. It's been in the entertainment buzz about like how much money has been spent on each episode, and haters are like, where is money going? This is where this money is going. Did you watch this?
This is where it's going. You see it.
Okay.
You know what? They can get out of here. Whoever's saying that can just go kick rocks and get out of here. All right.
Get out. You're not welcome.
You don't even go here. She doesn't even go here. Okay. Just go. Anyway. So yeah, exceptional camera work. I was so impressed and so gripped by the movement and the motion and the change of POV. And literally the whole time I was like, how are they doing this? Like, I would love some BTS or BTP, as I call it, behind the process.
Yeah.
I would love to know how you get that type of shifting, switching, swinging, because this isn't just a tracking shot. Like Ben and Mark talk about it a little bit in their podcast for season 1, and they talk about how they do. Did I say Mark?
You did.
I said Mark. My bad. They're becoming synonymous in my brain. Adam Scott. He's a person. Adam Scott is a person. So it's a real person. So yeah, Ben and Adam talk about the tracking shots and how they
Yeah,
do it, but I want them to talk about how they do this particular shot, because
right.
this isn't just like following you around the bend and da, da, da. I'm
Mm-mm.
like, y'all are literally switching POV,
Mm-hmm.
going up, going down,
Mm-hmm.
straight on.
Mm-hmm.
What? How?
Mm-hmm.
Seamless. How are we doing this? Oh, anyway, that alone had me. And then, of course, as it's happening, I'm like, where is he going? Because the fact
Yes.
that he was getting confused about where he was running, I was like, if he was going to MDR, he
Yes.
would know it. Like,
Right.
literally, the opening shot of season one is him just seamlessly
Yep.
walking to the MDR
Yep.
room. So I was like, the fact that he's all like, wait, no, and then having to turn around and be like, oh, and looking around. And I was like, where is he going? What is he trying
Yes.
to get to? Did he get confused coming back after 5 months with his brain turned off?
Yes.
And then they show you where he goes,
Yeah.
and it's wellness,
Wellness.
formerly wellness.
And the first time, yeah, the first time I saw this, I thought, because remember, he is thinking he is returning from, the OTC,
Immediately from,
immediately from
yeah.
the OTC. So I was thinking he was lost because he was trying to remember where security was to go find Dylan and help
Oh,
was because, okay,
mm,
did it stop abruptly or did he just give us enough time? He doesn't know why it stopped. OTC stopped. So my initial thought was he's got to be going to find Dylan, but
got to get to you, Dylan. Okay, that does make sense.
mm,
That does make sense. I didn't even connect the fact that it was him immediately being returning from OTC and being back.
yeah, he's returning from the book party. But that said, he is returning from just yelling out to Devin that she's alive. So it makes sense that he immediately went to wellness. But I'm like, he also knows at this point that Miss Casey has been fired because the last interaction was her packing everything up and
Mm-hmm.
it was almost as empty as it is right now.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, they've sealed off the back room to where the wellness sessions would take place.
Yes.
The room he
Yeah,
went
this is
into
just the
was the
waiting room.
waiting room,
Mm-hmm.
and they done boarded that whole thing off.
Uh-huh.
So you couldn't get back there if you wanted to, if you tried.
Yep. I was like, why leave the couches in there?
I bet because they knew he'd go looking. I think it's a setup. They want
The
him to be
mind
like, oh
game.
no,
Yeah.
no wellness, poor thing.
Boo.
Yeah. And because Milchick is a dastardly bastard who would
Right.
do
It's
something
interesting that
sadistic like that.
it's interesting that he used that word to describe Cobell because it's seeming like the pot calling the kettle black.
Oh, if it ain't the pot calling the doggone cauldron black. Like, sir, are you kidding me? So anyway, we get to wellness. It's not there. He finally goes to MDR and sees these new faces. And now it makes sense. Now, when I saw that first trailer,
Mhm.
because I did actually see a snippet or the end where he sees the new people. I remember that when it first came out and being confused. And now that we know 5 months has passed, it makes more sense that there are
Yeah.
new people there, because obviously we still gotta work these numbers.
Yep.
These numbers need to be worked.
Yep.
So new people, here they are. So that now makes sense now that we know that Helly, Dylan, and Irving have not come back as of yet. Mark has. And so they've hired other people to be this new MDR team, which I'm very curious to get to know them as well. When they get to Milchick's office, I found it interesting that the office is much warmer
Mhm.
appearing than Cobell's version. Got colors in there. Him loves some blue. Him loves some calming, tranquil blue.
Yeah.
And he's got more things up in there than Cobell did. He looks like he's still moving in, which I found that interesting too. And I wonder if that is also kind of a setup. I'm questioning everything he does, for the record. I'm questioning it
Yeah.
all because I feel like Milchick is very strategic in what he does. And if it's been 5 months, when they have already fired Harmony, promoted you, like why'd they have to wait 5 months to figure all that out? And you're just now moving into the office
Well, and
day
it
one Mark comes back?
to me it looks like he was moved in, but then he's also searching for something because all of those boxes were like old school file boxes.
Right, right.
And then he pulled one, he immediately pulled one out to show Mark the newspaper. So I was like, why are all these boxes here? I wasn't thinking about like why did you just move in? I was thinking about what are you looking for? What side project are you doing?
I mean, could be that. I was thinking that it looked like he was still trying to get stuff organized in the office.
Hmm.
Like, obviously, he has set up his little decor, but
Hmm.
we're still getting files in. We're still, I was like, unless we are, again, strategically leaving boxes out and about to make it seem a certain kind of way because he's crazy and everything has a point and nothing is unintentional and whatever. I also was trying to figure out, because, we noticed in Cobell's setup, her Kier thing that she had on her desk. She didn't have much. I noticed behind Milchick, he does have a Kier bust
Hmm.
back there, not the same that Cobell had. And then he had some other little statue on his left side that looked like, I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like maybe a bird beak or an alligator mouth, or like it looked like some kind of animal snout.
Yeah.
And it was still kind of wrapped in plastic, so I couldn't see what it was. But I just was like, "What the heck is that? And why is it back there? And what is this?" And it didn't look like anything related to the tempers, so I was very curious about what that could be. I guess maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. But I just thought that's weird. What a weird looking thing you've got behind you. Um, we discussed ad nauseum Mrs. Wong being or Miss Wong being a child.
Yes.
I find it interesting that she's a child. You still have to call her Miss Huang.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh, so we had that discussion about like the names and the titles and the ranks of
Chain of
everybody. So I was
command.
like,
So
oh yeah, yep, she above y'all because she's a miss.
she's a miss.
We don't know her name.
And I'm still blown away by the fact that she might not be separate. I'm sorry. The minute you said that, I was just like, they just bring in children. Oh, okay. Anyway, so I don't know how I'm going to process that. Obviously, he's been promoted. We've already discussed this. Yeah, that whole little line about Miss Cobell being a sadist. And I don't know
Mhm.
how we could have let a sadist into our midst. And Mark, I caged you like an animal.
Mhm.
And seeming so like, oh, when I think about
We're
what
not.
she tricked us into doing and what she convinced us to do, and I'll never live that down. I'll carry that with my unsevered brain for the rest of my days. I was like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yep. Yeah, and we're
oh,
like, I'm just like, yeah, your remorse, not buying it, not buying it at all.
not at all. And I hope Mark isn't either. I call BS. I call foul.
I mean, I don't think he is since he asked to hear it from them. And I was like, I shouted, I was like, that's right, Mark. You want to hear it from
Mm-hmm.
the mouths of the babes directly, okay?
And then he said, sorry, that's it's not possible. Why is it not possible? Why? Why?
Why?
You can't bring them back. You can't connect me to them. You don't got no phone numbers in the many file boxes. Get out of here, Milchick. And the reforms thing. What are these reforms? What is this
Right.
reform? I've got questions. Let's just get into the newspaper because
Yes, I was like, let's do the newspaper
my blood pressure's
phone
getting
call.
up.
So this newspaper. So, it's the front page. So the center is the main story, and we see it makes me think of like it's a very old school ticker tape parade. They're in an old looking car.
Mm-hmm.
We have the four of MDR in the car, and there's a celebration behind them in the parade. Now, if you look very closely, though, makes me question if this is a genuine photo of the Audis.
I
Because
do not believe it.
right, I don't believe it
Mm-mm.
either because it looks very much like the photo that was taken on Helly's first day, especially the facial expressions, though they are blurry.
Thank you.
It
I
very
was
much
like,
looks
this
like,
looks superimposed. Fake
yep,
news.
Helly looks like
Fake.
she doesn't want to be there. Dylan's a little smiley. Mark and Irving are really smiley, which is exactly how the photo that they took on Helly's first day looked. So I'm thinking, fake news. This is fake. This is fake. Um,
Not to mention this very JFK looking parade
yep,
photo
this
with these old
yes,
cars and these dudes looking like they're from 1968. I'm like,
right.
what? Where'd y'all get
Yeah,
this
it
old
doesn't
parade looking photo?
match Kier as we know it, outside the town of Kier as we know it. And of
No,
course, the innies won't know that, right? They don't know.
no, they don't know. That's why I was like, this trickery, this nonsense trickery,
Mhm.
I don't buy it, not one
More
bit. Oh,
propaganda. But so let's get into
yes.
what we can see a little bit about the story, right? So the headline is Innies Blow the Whistle. And we have in Kier PE, less than a week has passed since Four Lumen workers brought the notion of severance reform to the world's attention, and already the world has come out to say thank you. A celebration was held Saturday. Redacted, redacted, redacted.
Mm-hmm.
Mark S, Helly R, Irving B, and Dylan G. The famous innies, more redaction. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the next column, we find that all four gave speeches praising the outrageous acts of their innies. Lumen, more redaction.
And thanking
There's,
Lumen for the accommodations, which
yeah,
I'm like,
thanking them for the
what
accommodation.
accommodations?
Yeah, what accommodations?
What?
Let's see. And then we have, ha, 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 ha. We have the board was eager to listen. And then there were other entertainers present at this, right? And then there's more redacted.
Mm-hmm.
But then a benediction was delivered by Dr. Rickon Hale,
Rick and
author of
Hale.
such books as The UUR and These Values 9, How I Let Kier
How I Let
In.
Kier In.
Oh, the hot rage I feel for Rickon right now.
Now, okay, so we're here to this. So this is what I was thinking when we got to the typewriter of Rickon at the typewriter. So I'm like, is this book a real book? Is this propaganda, or did Rickon somehow make a book about Severance and Kier and
Mm-hmm.
whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, because
Mm-hmm.
I could easily see this also just being propaganda because they know that they read Rickon's book.
Yes.
And oh, let's also put that Rickon wrote this book about Kier so they can get back on board with Kier. See?
Yes.
Or something. I don't know. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if they had a full on book that they wrote and said Rickon wrote and left it in the office for them to
Yeah.
find.
I wouldn't put that past them at all. There is also the prevailing fan theory that Rickon is an Egan also.
Oh, I have heard that, but also I forgot that. And now I'm having a reaction
I
all over
I
again.
don't want it to be, it was one of those things that I was like, yeah, I'm not going down this road. I don't really believe this one. And then I saw this and I was like, oh no. Is there some weight to that one?
I will be distraught. Do you understand me?
Mm-hmm.
If he ends
Mm-hmm.
up being an Egan as well,
Mm-hmm.
distraught. It will explain some things,
Mm-hmm.
like him being so randomly wealthy to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
him having no real job,
Mm-hmm.
him being kind of a dummy. It
Mm-hmm.
would explain a lot if that's the case, but also I will hate it. I will hate it so much. And then I'll have more questions about like why he's with Mark's sister, why he's with Devin, and
Yep,
okay.
that's right. So, just to read on, in the wake of last week's revelation, Lumen has begun implementing global reforms to ensure the happiness and safety of their innies. And then it's more redacted and then a little
Redacted
blurry, too blurry for me after that. But
says
that speaks to our discussion
top
of like,
of
what is the
the
reach, right? Is it just national? Is it just North America? But this says global.
oh, it says top of the line recreational facilities, sexual liberation improved something something. That's where I lose it.
Oh
So is
yeah,
that
sexual liberation.
maybe okay? This is going to the Lumen letter. Remember in the Lumen letter where they were talking about innies having relationships and that
Yes,
conflicting with outie life and da-da.
yes.
I wonder if that has something to do with that, where it's like, oh, we're now going to make it like life great, where we aren't going to try to prohibit innies from having fulfilling lives and they can have sexual liberation
But
inside too.
but but
I don't know.
but
I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying maybe
they're still at work.
that's
This ain't Grey's Anatomy, sex in the break room. Like what?
you're right.
They're still
That's
at work. Yeah, okay. Have a full, fulfilling more mental health activities for the innies, but sex, let them have sex. Oh, okay. I mean, it's a choice. Um,
unless we come to find out a little more about people who are severed not at Lumen. We already know of one.
yeah, right. That is very true. Oh my goodness. Um,
Okay.
Goodness. And then so that is the center panel is like the main story, right? So there's other stories going on the side as newspaper setups do. So on the left side, there's a story about a break-in at the Baird Creek
Mm-hmm.
bandit. Is there's a police investigation about a serial burglar going on. Bayard is, I believe, another Egan name. It has to be. That's the always the assumption. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and someone, I guess, above that, someone is just talking about their belongings that were taken. And then I don't know if there's anything you can read on the right. The right was harder for me. I think we could probably could have gotten a better image, but
I
anyway,
was
there's
gonna say the
a
the
lot
initial
redacted.
screenshot that I thought I got it a little clearer, but
Yeah.
now I don't have it,
Um,
so I don't know what it says.
yeah, but if we'll get a clearer screenshot, we'll post it on socials. But yeah, I believe this newspaper is complete bullshit. I really do. I really do.
Fake news. Okay.
Fake news.
I know that the word gets thrown around a lot now, but this is legitimately fake news. I don't buy it. I don't buy it one bit coming out of the mouth of that liar. I don't buy it. And I'm just like, what else are we going to? Again, this is just that the portrait, all these things. I'm like, again, with that trailer thing where he talks about tightening the reins and tightening his
Mm-hmm.
grip, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, Milchick said, oh, under my authority, okay, these innies, no more games. Okay. No more
Right.
playing games. Anything that they get access to, intentional. Anything that
Yes.
they think they doing, I done led them to it. It's gonna be a
And
really interesting game of cat and mouse
yeah,
this season
and
with him at the helm.
it makes sense for it to be propaganda as well, because if we remember back to the grim barbarity of optics and design, he initiated printing that painting that prints out for Irving to find, and Cobell very much questioned his intentions or with it, and I think he's
Mm-hmm.
probably like more inclined to use all of these tools that are at his disposal. And now he's going to start using them whenever the F he wants because he's in charge of this.
Mm-hmm. 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 Woo.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to talk theories before we wrap it up? Do we have any theories? Are we
You
thinking of
know,
anything? What do we think is going to happen this season?
I don't have any theories beyond what we have, the little bits that we have already
From
guessed throughout. And you know me, I am one to like, it's going to be, it's a very weird choice
fine
for me
line.
and a fine line for me to be even doing a podcast like this, because you know how I feel about fan theories. And I'm like,
I know.
even
I
if it's
know.
not a spoiler, it feels like a spoiler if one of you happen to be right. Um, but
Like it's going to be interesting, especially getting into this
yes,
season for you, because I know that that's one of those things that you're like, I don't want anyone messing this up. And yet, I do feel like these writers are so clever,
uh-huh,
and they've put a lot of intention. And now that we know that Ben and some of the folks are looking at what the conversations are around the show, I think there is going to be some interesting writing where even with all the theories abound, it's like, do you really know what's going
right.
on? Do
Yeah,
you
very
know
true.
what's going
Very true.
on?
But to answer your question, no, I don't really have any theories.
Okay. I wrote a couple down, but
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to be accurate. And this is also before I watched all the trailers. So now I'm like, some of them I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah.
So one of the ones that I'm not sure is really a thing anymore. I was trying to figure out why is Irving's POV of the dark hallway,
Hmm.
looking straight onto the dark hallway, right? Why is that what he sees in his brain? Why is that what's being output?
Yeah.
When was he ever there? And why is that his POV? Because he sees the arrow, right, that
Hmm.
goes down. So it's not just that he sees the dark hallway like Miss Casey
Hmm.
did. He sees the arrow. So that I was wondering, my theory initially, and I'm not sure if it's true anymore, my theory initially was that Irving was actually Milchick at one point in time, that his role, or maybe Cobell, like he actually was an unsevered person in charge of things,
Oh.
and that he used to be the person that walked folks down to that hallway.
Oh.
And then something happened, either he became a whistleblower or something, and then Lumon had to check him, sever him, and throw him up in
That's a
MDR.
wild one.
That's my
That's a
theory.
wild one.
I don't know that it's right or accurate, but I just kept thinking, why does he have the POV where he sees the arrow going down? If you were just a severed person who's been worked on a bunch and having to go down that hallway, when you just see the hallway, We see the arrow after Miss Casey gets in the
Yeah,
elevator.
right.
So that means the person standing there is the person who gets to see the arrow
Yeah,
going
because
down.
that's what we discussed, that Miss Casey can't have seen it because otherwise she would know that she's going down and not up, because she thinks she's
Not
going
up.
up because she asks Milchek if she enjoys her life, is she happy up there?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And the other reason I think that Irving might have been a Milchek is that Irving comes from a military background.
yeah,
I could see him getting out of the military, needing some place to go, something to do, some purposeful thing,
yeah,
finding it there. That also would explain why he's very pro Kier and very ultra Kier
uh-huh,
and knows all the stuff and knows all the
uh-huh.
quotes. And he isn't afraid to torture people if he'd been in the military and had to do some things and see some stuff.
And his Audi has a lot of information, but seems to be piecing things together, like perhaps they attempted to erase that and it's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
That's my biggest one. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't know if it's anything,
Mm-hmm.
but that was my biggest one because I was ruminating on that painting for a while. And also the fact that he has all the names and numbers of all the employees.
Yeah, that's the information
Whatever.
I'm referencing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was trying to figure out is like, again, why the numbers? What is Lumen doing? I think, but I don't know if this is right anymore. What I said was my big theory is Lumen wants to create a secret workforce that can be utilized beyond death, true lifeless drones. They want severance laws passed so that people will already begin to elect the procedure prior to like working for them, and they'll already have the chips in their brain, and that way when they die they can be reactivated post-mortem and get to work.
Jesus.
Never ending workforce. Kier loved the job. He loved the job. How do we keep it going forever and ever and always?
And is the revolving that Kier mentioned something to do with the revolving door? And you're always coming back
Oh, the
here.
revolving, the revolving. I forgot about the revolving. Yeah. So those are my two big ones. I don't really have much else besides that.
Lord.
That's all I got. Don't know if it'll amount to a hill of beans, but that's what I got. All
Oh
I
my
know
goodness.
is I'm so ready for this season.
Yes, I can't wait. And wow, I thought this was going to be a quick little short, fun
We
interim
always do.
episode, but here we
We
are.
always
It's
do.
probably going to end up being the same length as our average episode. But yeah, so with that, I'm just going to lead us out of here.
Yeah, let's do that.
So,
Guys, we'll see you in season 2.
we'll see you in season 2. If you want to add on to Rodnesha's theories or ask us questions, correct us, point out what we've missed, follow us on Threads. We're on Blue Sky, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and our handle to make it easy for you across the board is at the UUR Pod. You can also email us at theuurpod@gmail.com. And so reach out to us. And also, if you feel so inclined to support the pod, you can become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/theuurpod. So yeah, please rate, review, share, all the things.
Yes, please do. We finally got organized and we got unified. This season, we're on it.
We are
y'all.
on it.
Okay.
This has been the UUR. And remember, we must be cut to heal.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I was like, I can't believe that came back up.